Okay, so to the big kahuna here, and that's the cerebrum. And we see many structures in the cerebrum. We're going to talk about these in more detail. And we see several of the ones we've already looked at, and hopefully it'll all start to come together here. Certainly the most easily observed part of the brain, and this is where we think, where we establish who we are, psychologically, who we are as we present ourselves to the outside world. And identifying the cerebrum should be no trouble for you, I would hope. Just any of those major structures in any of those pictures. And we see one of the hallmark features of the cerebrum is a longitudinal fissure right here that divides the cerebrum into right and left halves. You will also notice these folds in here called gyri. We're about to talk about those, I know. The gyri then are the major folds here. The grooves in between them are called sulci. And really the degree of folding does have some relationship to intelligence. So that's our first major indicator. The more folded, the typically associated with a greater degree of intelligence, and certainly the less folded. You can have people with brains that have barely any folds in them, and those people will generally have difficult times making it through life. All right, so we'll also see that there's a major set of axons that connect the right with the left half of the brain called the corpus callosum. And that connects the two hemispheres together, allowing them to interact and communicate. So there's the longitudinal fissure. We see the corpus callosum in different aspects here, a huge set of white matter axons. Okay, gray matter, remember in the brain we're going to see there's this beautiful, in the cerebrum we're going to see there's this beautiful delineation between gray matter and white matter. The brain is, if nothing else, incredibly organized, very hierarchical. And so gray matter is the seat of all neuron cell bodies, remember, just to remind you. This is unmyelinated axons and so forth. When we look at it through a scope, we'll notice it looks kind of dull, nothing very particularly attractive about it. But on the other hand, white matter appears glistening under the microscope, and this implies that they are myelinated axons. And typically they're going to be deep within the cortex, within the cerebrum, whereas the gray matter is going to be more superficial for the most part, although there are exceptions. Okay, so we know that these are bundles of axons, and we called those nerves when we were in the peripheral nervous system, but now they are more properly referred to as tracts. All right, so let's look at the way that the tracts are organized in the brain. We have those that are called projection tracts that emerge from the spinal cord and project to the rest of the body. And so projection tracts go both ways, and I just referred to you in the way that it emerges from the spinal cord and goes into the cerebrum, and then of course projection tracts go from the cerebrum down the spinal cord to the rest of the body. Commissural tracts all connect one half of the brain, the one hemisphere, with the other hemisphere. There are two other commissures besides the corpus callosum, and they are the posterior commissure and anterior commissure, but they are in no way similar in size to the corpus callosum. And finally, if we want to communicate between two regions on the same side of the brain, on the same hemisphere, we'd use association tracts. So let's look at a visual of these, and up here we see the association tracts that show intercommunication between locations on the same side of the hemisphere. You will also see these green projection tracts that are both coming to and from the cerebrum into the spinal cord. They're shown here as well, decussating all the motor tracts that are decussating in the pyramids found in the medulla oblongata and projecting up into the brain, passing around or through the thalamus. And then finally the commissural tracts that are here in yellow that connect the two halves of the brain. This is just unbelievable picture to me. I still revel at it. It still strikes me as being incredibly beautiful. Here we have the delineation of gray matter, which is this outer shell here. These are 6 layers of cells that truly define who you are. This is your personality, how you deal with life, how you recognize things, how you interact with things, your personality, your judgment, your decisions. Everything is out here on this shell of 6 layers of cells. And that's just astounding. I can't convey how astounding that is. And then everything interconnects through these axons. This is all the white matter in here. It's remarkable, right? This hierarchy, this organization, where you have the gray matter out on these 6 layers of cells out here, and then the white matter that's very much a series of pathways connecting different regions of the brain together. Just incredible. I just revel over that appearance. And this shows you slices of the human brain, showing you the delineation once again of the gray matter versus the white matter. There is some gray matter located internally that helps us do some very basic movements and functions in life. Those areas we will not deal with extensively in this discussion. Once again, separation showing you a different slice. This would be a horizontal or transverse slice through the brain, and showing you the outlay of the gray matter and the concentration of white matter deeper to the outer shell of gray matter. Okay, so this cerebral cortex, the 6 layers of cells, is shown to you here, and the way they interconnect. You can see axons, dendrites, all kinds of interconnections. There's many different types of cells. This is where a process called integration is figured out. Decision making, figuring out what to do and when, is a major province of this neocortex. Cerebral gray matter, though, is found in other locations besides here. It's found in the basal nuclei and also in the limbic system that we're about to discuss in a next video. So, cerebral cortex is the layer covering the surface of the hemispheres. It's very thin, and we only find about 15 billion neurons here. In the total in the brain, we have about 100 billion neurons. But remember, over half of those are found in the cerebellum. So that makes up 50 billion, and only 15 billion, 15% of the neurons in the brain make up what decides what you're going to do for the day, what your choices in life are, how you're going to respond to people in the around you. It's just amazing when you think about it.